Thank you very much for staying with us here this afternoon. Our top focus in a surprising development just weeks before the Lok Sabha elections. Election Commissioner Arun Goel has tendered his resignation, which has been promptly accepted by the President. Now, this move leaves the Election Commission of India with only Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, as there was already a vacant position within the Commission. Now, let's tell you, Goel is a retired 1985 batch Indian Administrative Service officer belonging to the Punjab cadre. The reason for Arun Goel's resignation is not yet known. His tenure was to end in 2027. In fact, my colleague Govin spoke to O.P. Rawat over the same. Let's listen into that conversation.
Rawatji, you must be just looking at the sequence and reactions coming all across the nation, political reactions, especially from opposition side. You are the right person. Can explain and elaborate this situation that suddenly Mr. O.P. Rawat, Mr. Goel resigned, in fact, elections just after a few weeks and dates to be announced, sir?
Yeah, it appeared very strange that without any rhyme or reason or any background, something of this sort happened. Whatever I could gather from my contacts elsewhere, I find that there may have been something regarding arrangements for state of West Bengal during Lok Sabha polls. In social media also I found one or two posts to that effect. But no details are available as to what was but it is a very strong step taken by Mr. Arun Goel.
So, sir, can you just tell your experience that what should be there now, because he has stepped down and Mr. Chief Election Commissioner is alone now. So, how should be the next appointment and all?
Two very good options are available. One is continue with one Chief Election Commissioner, as was the case from 1950 to 1993.
Okay.
Only Chief Election Commissioner was there. So either one or three, two more can be appointed, so that forming majority to smooth the decision making, that takes place. And in Lok Sabha we cannot take chances.
All right, I'm also being joined in by Rashid Kidvi, senior journalist on the show, to better help us understand this and also, of course, what his perspective over the same is. Mr. Kidvi, I appreciate you taking the time out and joining us here this afternoon. Let me begin by, of course, asking you this. What do you make of this? How are you looking at this now?
Thank you, Nivedita. I think there is something, grossly wrong that has happened and that has prompted Mr. Arun Goel. Remember, Mr. Arun Goel, he was a retired bureaucrat, somebody coming from bureaucracy would not like to upset, equations when elections are so near. Technically, as Mr. O.P. Rawat was saying, CEC is capable constitutionally, to hold elections. But at the same time, there is the issue of propriety. When we must also remember, Nivedita, it's not a thing. Mr. Modi may be having a head start or a favorite to win 2024. But in terms of purely conduct of election, it should be equal opportunity. So opposition is very much part of that entire poll process. Without opposition, there cannot be election. Therefore, I think it is the duty of Election Commission, CEC, and government of the day to explain why Mr. Goel had to go and what is a kind of alternative arrangement that is going to be put in place. There is no hurry. Why should the government, EC should be announcing elections in next 2 days or 72 hours or whatever time? They can wait for a week, deliberate upon it, set process in motion and explain to the country, to your viewers, what went wrong. Was it about Bengal? Was it about, that EC silence on electoral bonds? Remember, this is a major issue. So this is not an issue of to be looked at in a partisan manner from a BJP's point of view or Congress point of view. As I said, voters are a stakeholder, political parties are a stakeholder, media is also a very, has a very important role. So government and election commission needs to explain everything.
Mr. Kidvi, as you pointed out in terms of, the government has to say what went wrong, but at the same time, if you could help us understand what really happens now, what is the due process also for our viewers to better understand this?
And with it's a little complicated. I mean, government itself, decided that election commission, in the appointment of election commission, the Chief Justice of India would not play a role, and it will have a three-member panel: Prime Minister, another minister from the Union Cabinet, and one that leader of the Congress in Lok Sabha, that Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. But time is so little. How do you put everything in place? How do you appoint one election commissioner or two election commissioners required by law? As Mr. O.P. Rawat was saying, one election commissioner that being CEC can hold election. But it's like playing a cricket match without a square leg umpire and a third umpire. Remember, in cricket, there was no third umpire, but today third umpire has become a very essential part of a game. And remember, this is far more important. We are talking about millions and millions of people expressing their will. As I said, you cannot say that 24 election is a foregone conclusion in favor of Mr. Modi or the NDA. It has to be, every vote has to be counted, and it has to be done in a very neutral manner. Mr. Goel's resignation, therefore, cast a very big shadow on the entire process, and the government and EC must come clean. This is not something that you can look at it in a partisan manner and say opposition is going to oppose it for the sake of opposition. Theoretically, speaking, purely theoretically, opposition has as much chance to win election as NDA.
As you pointed out, and since we're also talking about the opposition here, what Jairam Ramesh was also stating a while ago is that this abrupt resignation is also an attack on the Constitution. Is that how, one way of looking at it as well? Of course, political parties are now coming forward and mincing no words and questioning the timing of it. But how do you see this pan out now, politically speaking, of course?
Unfortunately, there is very little, communication or consensus or meeting ground between opposition and the ruling party or ruling establishment, and this is very unfortunate and very sad. Framers of constitution had never envisaged a situation when there could be total breakdown of conversation and any kind of logical, rational behavior between the two sides, and that makes a very telling commentary on the quality of democracy we are having. This is time where opposition must come forward and cooperate with government, because government has to appoint two new election commissioners, and if government goes ahead with single election commissioner, that being CC at present, it will look very odd, and opposition will continue to make noises and say all kind of things. Remember, there is a whole issue of electoral bonds is there, which was struck down by Supreme Court, and the State Bank of India is not disclosing, and that is also one of the reasons privately being cited for Mr. Goel's resignation. Now, if this is a thing, this is a very grave thing. So why should SBI be hiding this information? And they must come out. It's not going to create any kind of problem, because as per law, those people who had bought electoral bonds for a political party also, there's nothing illegal about it. So therefore, I think transparency is required, and transparency, to my mind, is the only solution to set election commission in order.
Right, Mr. Kidvi, as you did mention, the transparency is needed, and essentially also why this resignation did take place, there should be accountability on that front as well. But on that note, I want to thank you for taking the time out and joining us here this afternoon. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that. We're shifting our focus